guys, we are Chucklefish. We're here to present today our game Starbound, which is currently in beta form, or development, sorry. Yeah, I know, sorry. Slip of the tongue. I wish. So we're here today, we're going to basically do a bit of a playthrough for you, give you guys a sense of what the game's like in the early stages. So we're going to have, on the far left over here, we've got Legris, who is our artist on biomes and making the environments look pretty. On my immediate left, we have Bartley, who is our coding wizard, who makes everything work. And those of you who probably have not seen me that often, I'm the guy known as Armagon online. I do all the sound design and the dungeon stuff. So we're going to get Legris to start a playthrough up for us. He's going to basically show us the early stages of the game. If at any stage you guys have any questions that you'd like to pose to us, feel free to just sort of stick your hand up and we'll answer them as best as we can. But otherwise, I'm quite happy to sort of explain to you guys what Legris is doing in the early stages. So if we can get you to kindly start it up. Just making it look all pretty for you. So those who are not necessarily aware of what Starbound is, I'm guessing most of you do, but as a sort of a clean-up, Starbound is essentially a combination of RPG, Metroidvania, and sandbox games. So hopefully all the best elements of those kind of games that you enjoy. We're really just trying to make our dream game here. So Legris here is going to start off by making himself a character. So already off the bat, you can see we've got 6 different playable races that you can choose from: the humans, avians, apex, floran, hylotl, and the glitch. So lots of customization right off the bat. You can customize the individual appearances, the gender, and right down to your starting clothes. You can choose what colors you start off with. It's all very flexible, and of course, you can randomize if you're not really feeling like designing your character yourself. 6 different me personally, I like to go in and just really go to town and make whatever I imagine. But so he's going with an apex here. He's going for sort of a militaristic style. We're going to call him. Start off with. It's all very flexible, and of course, you can randomize if you're not really feeling like designing your character. You can't even spell your own name. Personally, I like to go in and just really go to town and make whatever. He's pretty much got his character there, so I guess you're ready to start. We're going to call him. Start off with. And so when you first start the game, this is pretty much what every player is going to start off in. You're basically alone on your space shuttle. You've been completely stranded after having to escape your homeworld for reasons that will be revealed in the respective introductions of each race. So essentially, your very first quest is to get your basic matter manipulator, which is what you will need to do pretty much any building or carving, chopping, that kind of stuff. So he's got to go and use a ship logger here to find that. And you can see he's got a basic starting weapon, a few basic materials just to help him get started. This is pretty much going to be the starting process for everyone. And voila, quest complete. Reasons that will be so now it's telling him that he's going to need to get some fuel in order to basically move his ship anywhere, which he can't do in his current state. So it's telling him he'll need to beam down to the planet to get your basic matter manipulators, which is so now he's going to beam down pretty much any to complete. So now it's telling him there we are. So right now he's on a forest planet, I believe. He's just getting himself armed up and geared, but you can see we've already got a lot of growth of mushrooms and just going to need to get some plants and stuff. Most of which you can interact with and harvest and collect materials which you could use for various cooking recipes or certain items. He's already got himself into a fight with octopus-headed Ben with pointy tails. And they're body slamming him. So all the creatures you see in our game are procedurally generated, so they're all basically Frankenstein together by our engine, which is the genius work of our programmers. And it's not just the creatures, I'm guessing most of you have heard this already, but everything about the world, the terrain, the trees. Pretty much every planet you go to will be completely different from the other. No 2 worlds will ever be the same. Even if you find worlds, unlikely as it is, that are similar, you will find completely different wildlife, you'll find different caves. And as you progress through the game, you'll get tougher and stronger equipment, which will let you in turn go to stronger planets where the progression is, basically. So you can see we've got massive mushroom trees here, and it's not really what he needs, because he needs wood right now, so he's going to have to keep a search out and see if he can find his way to some nearby forest. So he's having to sort of navigate his way around the terrain, and we found some trees. So this is where the matter manipulator he got from the safe earlier can prove useful. So as you can see, he's using it to chop down the tree slowly, but it is a starting item. You will be able to craft stone axes and stuff early on, and as the game progresses, you'll have more tools like chainsaws and stuff you can build to make it a lot quicker. So he's just going to keep getting a little bit more wood, and once he's got this stuff, he can actually use this to craft himself some basic equipment, so he can mine and scavenge even if you find wood. So a couple more trees, and he should have enough to build himself a nice crafting table. And he can probably build himself a shelter as well to sort of get himself started. So this is the crafting system that our code has toiled over. So you can see here it gives him exactly the details of what he needs to craft, and he's just going to build a couple of planks. He can detail exactly how many he wants, and it's all carefully nested, so you can actually choose exactly what kind of items you want to craft to make it a lot quicker. And right now he can't see much because he hasn't got a lot of materials. By default, it will only show what he has the materials for. But you can see he's got a few more recipes that he just can't currently build. But as you progress through the game, you will find more recipes for unique furniture, weapons, and so forth that you'll craft at various places. So right now, it's telling him he's going to need to eat some food because obviously just arrived and he's got nothing. Much because he hasn't. You can actually collect meat. He's actually already got a few pieces from the creatures he killed before. You can see he's got a couple of steaks in his bar. So what he'll need to do is try to make himself a campfire food. So for that, he's going to need to find himself some coal and then combine it with some of the wood he's got just arrived. So to find coal, you can usually find it around the surfaces, but as you can see, we've started off with a few from the ship, just to get him started. So he can place himself down a campfire somewhere once he's crafted that. Oh, yeah, being attacked, you might want to... This is from the creatures he killed before. So now he can use his campfire to basically cook his meat. Because he's going I don't know why anyone would want to eat their meat raw, not very nice. And voila, he has a cooked alien meat. And it's another of his starting quest complete. So this is just to help people get the sense of the flow of the game. Once you've done it once or twice and gotten the flow of the game, you can immediately skip this initial quest line. You're not going to have to do it every single time if you don't want to. So now he can use this campfire, got a steak there, so when he gets hungry, and there he goes. Just nommed on a steak. Okay, Negus wants to try and find his engine. So you can see we've got materials that are appearing as well, like around the surface there's a rare chance you might get like holes, you can see them along. And if we were to short on time, you would spend a lot of that basically digging around, getting materials to another attack. So the combat system, like in the very early game, it's pretty much going to be just natural. So you can see we've got bars in place, but as you progress through the game, like around the surface there's a rare chance. As you progress through the game, you're going to come across tougher enemies, smarter enemies, some that will use weapons, and you got thrashed. Well, this is a good point to point out our very flashy little respawn animation. The Apex cloned themselves to come back into existence. Pretty much every race has a unique way of being brought back to life, and you'll reappear on your ship. So you might get like holes. So now you got to go back down again and get your stuff. So he could choose to go back the way he went. Sorry, yes, you have a question? Sorry, I couldn't quite hear that. No, sorry, that was actually a slip of the tongue. He left his crafting table is actually what I was referring to. You don't actually lose the items as of yet. I think we're discussing having multiple options. So you can have like a hardcore mode where you lose your items, softcore mode where you drop your items and you can go back and get it. I'm not 100% on this at the moment, but we're kind of all discussing it. I think we're going to try and include all three, so people who want the hardcore experience can have the hardcore experience. Yes, sorry. And if we were... You can actually set your spawn points. We're going to have it so you can actually deploy like a little unit that will give you a new spawn point. So if you decide to make yourself a nice lavish house or castle, you can teleport yourself straight down there. So it's not going to be the same point every time if you don't want it to be. But it will require resources to do it, so you'd want to use it sparingly. And he's showing up the chat system, I can see. He was actually showing the examination system, I believe, because right now there is in fact a examine option where he can basically cook anything in the world. And every race will have a unique description for the items in the wild. So if, say, a glitch, which is one of the robot race, was looking at an item, they would usually open with a descriptive word for their emotional view of the item, and then there would usually be something mean or sarcastic or just one. But Apex, they are very militaristic in their background, and most of them will have grown up in basically a glitch, which is one of the robot uniform military camp where everyone has the same sort of homes, and they have to obey Big Ape, which is kind of a big brother figure. And he's still getting himself in trouble. So as you can see, he's encountering a lot of different creatures, some hostile, some not so hostile, but he's distanced himself quite nicely. They would usually open with a descriptive word for there. So he's probably going to see if he can find the item. Yes, we have birds that spit acid at you. And as the game progresses, it's not just going to be melee weapons. Obviously, we have a randomly generated system, so you get all kinds of different weapons. So there's hammers, broadswords, daggers. If you're into melee, you can get shields as well. And you got. Well, I'll tell you what. Like, we fancy like trying to get ourselves to another world. If you want to just sort of. We're going to bypass the rules of the game here a little bit. He's going to give himself some coal or some wood, and he's going to show us the spaceship travel system. And maybe find a snow world or something. They're quite nice. Yeah, that's fine. But this thing he's actually standing in front of, just behind the teleporter, that is the fuel pod. So typically you won't be tied to the first planet if you don't want to be once you got enough fuel. But you'll want to make sure that you don't want to be carefully pick what world you travel to, because if you don't, you're going to be taken to potentially a higher level world, which will be a lot tougher because the monsters will be stronger, and also the environmental hazards will be greater in number as well. So it's one of those things you want to make sure you're ably prepared. You can see our navigation system where you can see all these different solar systems, and every planet has a threat level. So right now we've only really got the equivalent of like level 2-ish gear. So level 10 world, he's going to get completely thrashed.
That's not the battle.
No, I'd say pick a level like 3 or something, so it's not too tundra. 2-ish. And every single planet, like so level 10 world, he's going to get every single planet is like the one I described before, completely randomly generated. So we don't even know what exactly we're going to get here. We could get a world that comes out really amazing, or it could be like a barren, harsh wasteland with very little. But on pretty much every world, even if on the surface there's not necessarily much, quite often the more derelict planets will have precious materials below that you can actually get from. And he's not locked to his ship. Once the ship's in hyperspace, if he wants to, he can walk around his ship and organize his inventory or drop stuff and lock it when he wants to do that. So really, it's about giving people freedom. We've also, you'll be able to party up with other people. We can already travel in other players' ships and so forth. So you can have a group of about 5 or 6 people all on one ship traveling to another planet. But if, say, your friend decides to stop playing, you're not stranded, you can go straight back to where your ship was and continue where you left off. So we're pulling into the new solar system now. So what biome was this world? Narrated, so we don't even know what forest. Okay, so we got another forest. So there's a good chance this one will get. Sorry, yes. There are beds in the game that you can use. That if you build yourself a bed, that will be your save point. While you're using the bed, your health will recover slowly, or you can teleport back up to the ship and you can go straight back to where. Sorry, yes.
Can you customize your ship?
We're planning on having multiple tiers of ship that you can upgrade as the game progresses. So as you go, sorry, as you go, you'll get bigger and bigger ships, but you're completely free to decorate your ships as you see fit. Already he's found himself in trouble with a big ape thing with a springy pigtail. Yes, I'm not very good with names, sorry. But you can see already we've got a completely different atmosphere. We've got spiky trees here instead. But it's another forest environment, so getting initial resources like coal and stuff will be a bit more straightforward here. But there'll be more dangerous worlds like the magma worlds, which are all very hot and you have to be careful not to go falling into a lava. I'm not very good with names, so you will fall apart if you do. So he's got himself some more wood now, so it might be worth maybe looking into building yourself a basic shelter, just so you have somewhere to stay. So the building system, I don't know if anyone here has actually played Terraria. You can see we're kind of taking a look at what worked in that title. Well, essentially, we're building in a block-based system where every block you get, you can place either in the foreground or the background. So you can see it's very easy to sort of build whatever shapes you want. And he's about to be attacked again, I think. He can just build himself a very basic shelter, but ideally you'd go around and you can get a lot more wood, and you're not limited to just one type of block here. Wood can be turned into a whole bunch of different things once you've got planks, so you can build yourself like fences and windows and that much and so forth. So it's really a case of just making the initial progression fun, and I think it's safe to say that you can see we've taken some cues from predecessors like Minecraft and stuff, because people really like that kind of stuff. And so we're giving players a lot of freedom to play how they want. So if you want to just explore lots of different worlds and see what they offer, that's entirely within your power. But if you're like me, because I'm the dungeon, I sit there a lot of time and just build stuff in the game, people who want to be creative like that, you have complete freedom to do so. And it's proven to be quite a challenge to work. We're going to try and hopefully see if we can find a dungeon in this world. Sorry, yes. It will basically be you can loop around the world. If it's a small world, you could walk for maybe about half an hour and you might encounter a spot you've been to before. But if it's a large world, you could be walking for like 2 or 3 hours depending on what you encounter along the way. So you can loop on yourself, but it's not something you have to do. The world is huge. There's not really any limit to that. So he's going to try, I think he's digging himself in, are you digging down or getting cobble? Where are you trying to find one? Don't get yourself stuck. Which he has done. It's okay, he can build himself a way out. Or break blocks to get out of the way. But essentially the main goal when you first start, he's obviously completed a few basic quests, but one of the things he will need to do is actually at some stage get himself some copper ore, I believe, which I think, is that copper or is that iron? So he kind of needs this ore because he can use this to craft more useful materials and things like an anvil, which he can use then to forge armors and clothes. And he got himself hurt. But essentially, you want to be taking every possible material you can get your hands on, because when you do find them, you can use these to make things like pickaxes and so forth, which will make your mining a lot quicker. So it's really a case of just hunting around and getting everything you possibly can out of the world. But when you get to a point where you feel like you maybe seen everything the world has to offer, then you can just hop in your ship and go off. But ideally, as you progress, because the first sort of set of worlds where you start off, it's only going to be very straightforward combat, swords and stuff. But by the end, you'll start encountering the smarter enemies who you will need to play more carefully, and you'll need better gear. And the melee weapons, what's actually kind of makes them advantageous to use over guns is the fact that guns will actually draw from your energy bar, that green bar beneath his name. You won't be seeing that deplete unless he's using a weapon, but since he's using a sword here, he doesn't need to worry about that. He basically just has to position himself correctly. And fire breathers, okay. So it's just, we just want people to feel like they have no limit to what they can do with the game. So at this point, normally the main flow of the game after you've sort of gone your initial settlement is you'll want to be digging down into the world where you can find all the more precious materials. The deeper you go, the more rare material is going to be, and then you can build yourself better gear. As he progresses, because he's got to make himself, I believe, like copper bars or iron bar, I always get that mixed up. Essentially gets the bars and he'll be using those materials to eventually make himself a recon pod so he can get in touch with someone and hopefully get off the planet. But we don't really know what's going to happen when it gets to that point. So he found some more unique trees here with giant flowers growing on it. He's going to chop it down. And these ones you see, they actually drop these things called plant fibers. These things you can actually use, you can actually form a wheel where you can actually sew clothes and stuff. So if you actually bring up the inventory for a second, Legris, as you can see on the left how you've got the costumes he's wearing right now, there are 2 bars or 3 slots to the right, which are purely decorative. So you can still be wearing the absolute top-end armor, but you can make your character look exactly the way you want them to look. So he's got a lot of control in that regard. But since it's obviously early game, I mean, I don't know, do we want to show off any of the guns and stuff, or do we want to keep it to sort of lightning bolts? Oh, he's found a chest. There's a chest there. So, no one deal with him. Oh, you're gonna die, aren't you? You're gonna die. Okay. Well, before he promptly got eviscerated by those birds of lightning, you may have noticed there was a chest on the ground. They are a randomly occurring thing in the world, so you might find a chest that has a unique weapon or something unique to that part of the world. Sometimes you can find like little areas where there might be a lush garden field where you can actually take all the petals from the flowers and you can use those to make dye to color your stuff. So There's, I think at count, I think we're well over 1,000 items at this point in the game, something like that. More? 5,000 or something. Oh, you mean the pod he was in, or? Sorry, I didn't actually see what he saw. Well, we do have acid in the game, yes, so you can encounter pools of acid. At the present time, I don't think he was in it long enough to take damage from it. Oh, you just missed the capsule. There was a capsule behind you. So the currency of the game world is a thing that we're calling pixels. You find like little random chests and containers that might have them, and you'll use them in combination with materials you've got to craft a lot of the items. But at present, he's just kind of meandering around, so I think that's actually just dirty water. I think that's what it is. But there will be worlds with acid. Oh, so he's found a chest again. Okay, so this here, is that a... Ooh. I think you might want to get out of that before you get into it. So he's found himself a massive petal that he can wear on his back. I actually haven't seen that one before. They're always adding new stuff and surprising even me, so I don't even know all the stuff they've got in there. But you'll find lots of unique stuff like that. And in each race, they all have their unique types of abilities. So the avians, which are the bird people of this game, will have unique things like wings that can help them glide, and potentially later in the game fly. We're sort of keeping tight-lipped about that yet. But every race will have their own unique kind of weaponry as well, so it's not all just randomly generated stuff. There will be rare weapons you can find that will be exceptionally powerful. Sorry? Sure. Legos, did you want to spawn yourself like a level 3 gun or something after you're done fighting this thing? Sorry? Okay. That's cute. Okay. So this will be a chance for you to see, the weapons, again, like the swords, are completely randomly generated, or we can have specially designed ones where you find them in chests and stuff. But he's gotten himself a pistol, plasma pistol. It's a level 7, that's going to eat up your energy fast, but that should be okay. So he's just mounting it into one of the slots there, so he can just basically whip it out whenever he needs it. And you can see it's consuming his energy in the green dot top every time he shoots it. Because he's actually got a gun that's actually quite high level for where he is, it consumes a lot of his energy very quickly, but the trade-off is it does more damage to the local creatures. So in terms of the gun generation system, we've already gotten to the point where with the parts we've got and the different types, there's potentially thousands of different combinations of weapons, or I could just open Borderlands and it gets really good guns. Sorry, you have a question? At this point, we're not sure if we're going to keep the health locked or if we're going to have it improve with armor. The main focus for us is that your armor will get stronger. So as you get higher gear, the amount of armor and resistances you have to attacks will increase, so you won't really need to increase your health to compensate. So a higher level creature, for example, will have a lot more armor, and they'll be less likely to take damage from you. Is that an explosive gun you just gave yourself? He's given himself one of the rare guns. So this one appears to shoot explosive projectiles, which means you can of course do area of effect damage in a small area. You are not very good at this game, are you? But as you can see, he's back on his world. Do we want to try mixing up with another world, maybe a different type? What do you feel like? Let's see. We got a lot of forest world. Let's go tundra. Yeah. Was that level 10? No, I didn't see what level. Well, there you go. Ladies and gentlemen, this is why we are not presently in beta. So, as you can see, bugs are going to happen. We're just going to work through it. You can start the game right back up again. We can pick up where we left off. So, no alarm. It's all good.
Yeah, except that saving is turned off right now, so no.
It's okay. You can use that as an excuse to make a new character really quickly. I think this time we can just go with like a random character or something. So for the purpose of this demo, we've currently got it set so everyone will start on the same world, but we'll probably just get him to give himself some materials and go straight to another one. He wants a florin, okay. With a little spiky mohawk? Oh, okay. So Hux Joan is his name. Of course, if you're too lazy to enter your own name, you can of course do the random name thing, which is interesting in its own way. So he's grabbing his tools again. But I would say honestly, just go ahead and just give yourself some coal or something, and just because it's going to be the same plan when you go down. And it's really, in terms of a scope, as it stands right now, because most of us are playtesting this game almost every night as we add more stuff, because the team is constantly putting new content in there. It'd be nice actually if we could find a word of a dungeon on it. That would be nice, but because probably and like in the worlds, each world will typically have a chance of spawning a unique dungeon, and as it stands right now, we're looking at probably around about 20 of them total. You'll get some villages, which is where you'll find friendly NPCs who will like give you quests or have shops where you can buy stuff. And then there's also going to be the worlds where there are hostile dungeons, where people who might be the same race as you, who do not appreciate you impeding on their territory, so they'll attack you on sight in most cases. Sorry, yes, another question? At present, I think it's going to be a case of everyone just makes their own house, and I think we're going to look into maybe giving systems where you can lock your chests and stuff, but that's kind of something we haven't discussed in detail yet. Presently, you're pretty much free to build what you want where you want, so we're kind of just letting people do what they want to do. It's going to be something that server administrators will have complete control to, and we're making it very moddable. I mean, all this stuff, you can easily add your own content and scripts and stuff, so you can make whatever kind of server you want. Sorry, yes, question over there? At present, we are going to have a pet system, where essentially you can have something that follows you, and as you sort of level up, you can get bigger, more impressive pets. We're also actually implementing a capture system. You've seen all the monsters that have been attacking and murdering him repeatedly. Most of those we intend that you'll be able to catch. And because each creature will have its own unique movesets and so forth, so you might say get a creature as Flame Breath and Body Slam, you can brag to your friends about getting a high level one and going, oh there, I've got this one, he's got these really high level skills, and he'll be following you around and basically helping you in fights. We're probably not going to make him so powerful that you have no challenge, but he's just going to help you out in fights when you need it. But if he dies, I believe that's the plan, is we're just going to have them gone, so you have to take good care of them. So yes, at the very back. Present what, sorry? I'm sorry, I really can't hear you back there. Wiring. The wiring is actually already implemented at present. We actually need a particular tool for that, but you can actually rig up doors to buttons and switches and stuff. Most of that stuff is already working. We're actually implementing more of it as we go of the dungeon and stuff, so we're going to have ideally some really trap-focused places. So you might walk into a room and it opens a pit in front of you, or you might have like, we're hoping we're going to try and get like a little projectile shooter, so you can have something, you can set up traps for your friends if you feel like being a jerk. So no, we're planning on making that very flexible, and again, it's all tied in, so it'll be very easy for people to add their own stuff if they want. We're aiming for like Gary's modern Minecraft level of customization here. And so, sorry, yes.
Is there any possible chance that you could capture an animal, bring it to a different planet,
Yes.
let it breed, and then like,
Not sure about breeding yet. Like, we have actually discussed that. We actually contemplated where you could possibly breed them, but we're not sure how feasible that's going to be. That's something we're probably going to look at after we've got the main game out, because we do intend to support this game for at least a full year afterwards and continue adding content. So that's probably going to be a later thing if we do it. Sorry, yes. At present, that's not planned. I don't think we're going to, because we want that element of randomness to stay put. I assume if someone was really keen to, they could go in and modify, and they could set up their own server so it only has particular types, but honestly that's just reducing your variety, which I don't see why you'd want to do that. But, so where are we at now? You are really not very good at this game, are you? Okay, so did you actually go to a different world, or you just died? It's the starter world. Okay. But do you want to give yourself, like, because we're actually going to go to another one, so you got yourself butchered, hopefully, in the crash stuff. Or you're giving yourself a diamond pickaxe, so he's being lazy. He can't be bothered chopping through all the materials. So this is actually one of the very high-level pickaxes for early game. So you'll have to work hard to get these kind of things, but every tool we have on here, the pickaxes and like gardening tools and stuff, will all have their own durability levels. So you'll be able to basically take care of them. You can actually use an older tool to fix a newer tool. So if you value your diamond pickaxe, you want to take good care of it. worst case scenario, if it does break, we're not going Minecraft style where it becomes completely useless. It will still work, just a lot less effectively. But that way you're not completely stuck out there if you find you've got no tools and nothing to fix it with. Otherwise, worst case scenario, you could probably give yourself like an emergency escape exit. It might be worth, have we actually gone deep into the ground yet? Like, have we actually explored the underground regions? I don't think we have yet. I think we should probably start heading down there so we can see what some of the actual meat of the gameplay. So, ooh, never mind, I stand, right? Okay, this here, he's found himself a campsite where he's healing himself. So you can see he's very slowly healing in the tent, so you'll find beds that very much fulfill the same function. But you gotta wonder why there's a campsite here. It's because he's finally found himself one of our dungeons. So, like I said, on each world we're intending for there to be at least one dungeon. It's going to be one of those situations where you want to find these dungeons and you want to loot them, because this is where you're going to find the most chests. This is where you're going to find all the rare loot that will make it easier for you to progress on the higher level worlds. So you can see he's already started raiding all the chests and like the boxes and stuff, because it's like full of money and like various little bits and pieces, and he just broke all the boxes. Oh, he's bringing a tent with him so he can heal. That's actually probably a good idea. So this is the entrance. This is actually leading into a mine that... Yes, sorry. Yes. There is going to be an overarching quest line, and we're planning on basically... The quests that you saw at the start were just the introductory stuff. Right now, he's pretty much ignoring the quests. But once you've done the initial set, you'll basically be given a main direction to go. But then from there, if you want to follow that, you can. But you'll be able to go to towns and various worlds. You might find things like a body somewhere which has a mission attached to it. And we're working very hard on getting this randomized quest system in, so no matter what world you go to, there's always going to be missions to keep you busy if you want to do that stuff. So he's walking into the mine here now. He's found himself some bombs. These are very handy for clearing the way if you haven't got a good pickaxe. If you want to maybe find a spot to show off the bomb in effective. It's like he's going to blow up this. Well, there you have it. He's blown up his platform. I don't know if he can get back up now. Oh, he's found more bombs anyway. I'm not sure you should be using those. You don't seem very good. All right. And there's another tent there, so if he needs to heal, there is an option. But of course he's got to deal with this guy first. Unfortunately, the bombs are not very effective against monsters. It's more really for mining than anything else. I think after you kill this thing, you're going to want to heal. So, as you can see, there's a lot more monsters that rock up in the dungeons. They do tend to be stronger as well. And you can see all those remnants of people who have been in these places. The ideal is that these mines have essentially been abandoned. But you'll find much more heavily populated areas in the later parts of the dungeon. So, for example, a lot of the stuff that has been sort of rocking up. I don't know how many people follow the media, but we've got things like massive medieval-style castles which are owned by the Glitch, the robot people. And then we've got the Avians, who are more sort of Mayan, Aztec style, so they have big grandiose temples with massive statues. And you get a lot of that stuff. Each race is going to have at least 3 different types, including villages. So there's going to be a lot to keep you busy. And it's really just, we want to give people as much as they possibly can to do, so different games for different folks. We are actually starting to get to the end of our session, I believe. So if there's anyone who has any other questions they want to ask, now is perhaps the time to do so. Otherwise, we can keep going with the Legris playthrough so you can just see more of the actual dungeon. For those of you who haven't seen this before, this video is basically just demonstrating the sheer diversity of biomes we've got in the game. So every one of these is its own unique planet. So you've got ocean worlds, arid worlds, desert worlds, Arctic, tundra, and each of those will be different individually. So we've got multiple moons and snow planets that are all very distinctly different from one another. And each, of course, with their own creatures and challenges and dungeons to find. So ideally, this will be the game that will never run out of content, and like I said, we're fully committed to adding more after launch, so ideally be nothing else. And with all the detailed modding stuff, we're going to be basically making it easily affordable, not affordable, accessible, sorry. It'll be very easy for players to make their own dungeons. It's actually very straightforward to design your own dungeon. If you don't want to necessarily make your own assets, you can use all the assets we've got in the game and make your entirely own set of dungeons. Then ideally you'll be able to share that with your friends, or you can host your own private server. Your friends don't actually need to own the content you have. As long as your server has it, they'll be able to get it as well. Sorry, yes, another question? Yes, I think that's already in there, isn't it? Yeah. Sorry, yes. Adventure maps? So you mean like where you actually build like a quest sort of thing, or? Well, the dungeon stuff is typically fixed, but if you want it to have a strict progression, you absolutely can do that. The way we typically design them is that essentially it will just cobble together this massive number of rooms we have, and so every time you go it will be different. But if you just want to build a predefined layout from start to finish with bosses defined in certain places, absolutely, you'll be able to do that. We're planning on actually doing that ourselves with our main mission system. That is probably going to come a little bit after launch, but ideally we'd like to eventually start rolling out proper missions with a set structure and story. That's all going to come in the future. So, yes, sir. At this point, we're firmly committed to having the beta out this year. Beyond that, we're not really sure. Yes?
Will there be any, like, vehicles, interactive vehicles?
We have got vehicles planned. Each race is going to have a unique vehicle of its own. We've already got mechs in the game, but we're looking at getting a bunch for each race. And yes?
And will there be something in-game where you can basically say what you want a world to have, like you want it to be Arctic, but
yeah, you can absolutely go in and edit files, and you can, I believe you can actually go in and modify what kind of biomes appear, but we typically wouldn't encourage that because that does limit you. Sorry, yes?
Yeah, and also on the ship UI, we're going to have a way to make it easier for you to find this kind of planet you want to go to.
And like I was saying before, we're making it super easy to add content, so any creative people out there who feel like it, they can make a completely unique planet type. So they could go out and make a world that is, I don't know, made up of like, it's kind of hard to imagine something we haven't already kind of done, to be honest. Sorry?
Gummy bears. We don't have a gummy bear planet.
Oh, we don't. But yeah, so it's been foremost in our mind to make sure there's no limit on what players can do with the game. So, yes, sorry. Sure. Yeah. Speaking as the resident Australian on the team who routinely deals with about 500 microsecond ping playing from on his server, I typically find I don't have issues with monsters teleporting and stuff. Typically it just means, like you would with any laggy game, you just have to compensate and swing a little bit earlier or shoot a little bit in advance. That's just part of the course when you're dealing with a laggy game. But we've got our coders working very hard and making it all smooth and as playable as possible. So it's already very smooth now, so I don't think it's going to be a problem, to be honest. Yes?
How is PvP dealt with?
At the moment, we've only got it set so you can just toggle on and off, so players who want to opt in and fight each other, they can. But eventually we'll have an actual proper graphical user element that will sort of make it a lot easier, so you can just go tick and you're in PvP mode. So what we've actually been sort of wrestling with is whether we want to set up like PvP style arenas, or if we kind of just want to leave that to the players. Because there are a lot of like moons in the game that are generally the kind of build whatever you want here kind of thing, because they're very straightforward to build on. So we have sort of toyed with the idea of maybe making some of those PvP friendly spaces. That's kind of something we're still discussing at the moment. Yes? No.
I heard this game is coming out for PlayStation 4, is that true?
At the moment, I think we're confirmed for that, yes. They've only just sort of shown it off at Gamescom. They've said the Vita version, but I think we're pretty much set for the PS4 as well. So, yes, at the back.
Have you got any information on bosses?
On the what, sorry?
Bosses.
At the moment, we do have a boss who's pretty much, but I don't know if we want to show him yet, do we?
No, that's...
Not quite ready for prime time yet. Yeah, tomorrow?
Yeah.
Okay, well, come to the Yogscast panel tomorrow and you'll see it. There you have it. So you actually going to say...
What kind of resources would a typical seller require these let's say, running on a normal top-end gaming PC? Could you run 20 players? Could you run 1,000 players?
We've been able to have it run on a MacBook Air. So if that thing can handle, I think, pretty much any PC out there. I mean, it's quite CPU intensive. So I mean, as long as you've got like a dual core system, you should be good. So dual core minimum, I'd say. Yes, sorry.
Would you be able to like have a map, like not a map player, but instead of you both spawning in the same place and being able to like spawn in different places?
We could do that if we wanted, but we kind of want all the players when they first make their character to start in the same place so they all have like a very straightforward progression. But again, if you've played the game with other characters before, you can completely ignore that quest line, just get your basic wood material and then fly off to another planet and start from there. Otherwise, we could feasibly set it up that way if we wanted, but we want to encourage the cooperative element. But if you don't want to play with your friends, you don't have to. You can go to a separate world. It's completely separate. Yes? That's probably him, his question.
Well, our scripting engine is mostly Lua. And I think the boss, for example, is completely made in Lua, including, and also all the monsters you see in this is all Lua. So we'll probably use community feedback to learn what features we need to add in the future. But I think right now it's pretty powerful to do a lot of things. Yes, the circuitry is also reachable from Lua. It's a separate system, but you can write and read singles from the Lua, yeah.
Now for the people. Sorry.
Up their separate home worlds.
Oh, absolutely.
When each of those sort of empires encounter them, they die.
So you mean like set up a planet specifically with PvP so you go down and you fight, you mean?
Different worlds, and playing like different empires.
I don't think we're going quite that grand scale yet. It's really about the players. I mean, if you want to have your own planet and keep it to yourself, that's fine. You could just refuse to give your friend the coordinates. And then it's only if they stumble across it, really, that's going to be an issue. But, I mean, it's like Minecraft and Terraria. We feel it's a much stronger game when you play it with friends because, I mean, it's something that's fun to do socially. But if you don't want to, then you don't have to. You're not locked to that. Was there any other questions? I think we've got a... Yes?
What about the other kind of spaceships?
For now, no, but we have toyed with the idea. That's kind of something that would come after release if we're going to do it, but we're not sure yet. Yes?
Will there be a mod manager?
Sorry?
Mod manager?
I'm sorry, I'm really
Will there be a mod manager?
A multi-manager?
Mod.
Oh, mod manager. Sorry, you must have said it like 4 times. Mod manager, I think we're actually looking at hopefully getting Steam Workshop integration. It's not concrete yet, but it's looking very promising. We've been getting very good positive vibes from Valve, so it seems very likely at this point. That would be the ideal because it's very easy to use that with like Portal and Skyrim, so that's the hope. Any other questions? Or? Yes, sorry?
Can we say that the game looks amazing and super awesome, and we're really grateful that you've shown it to us today?
Well, thank you very much for coming and asking all the good questions. Yes, so I think that's pretty much it, guys. So thank you very much for coming and seeing our game. Please come back tomorrow for the Yogscast playthrough. Hopefully we get to see some really impressive stuff then when we can reveal the boss.
Did you play it?
Yes, oh, and also related to the modding stuff, also if you're interested in modding Starbound, we actually have another panel on Sunday as well where we'll actually be showing how easy it is to implement your own content. So do show up for that one as well if you're interested in this stuff. I guarantee you it's going to look very easy and straightforward when you see them do it. So, yeah.
Play the game in the exhibition hall.
Yes, absolutely. Of course, we are set up around the back of the hall, so please do come check out the game and try it for yourself. All right? Thank you, guys.